All right, Richard, let's go with the old profanity warning.
Well, like we do each and every week, and yet you still keep coming back. We'll probably offend you because we're two dudes with attitudes. No copyright there. We really don't care if we offend you, but just in case you may get offended, you may want to hit stop, pause, or the GTFO button, and listen to something else like Mary frickin' Poppins or something.
Oh, that was a really 2D intro for the profanity warning this week.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll be leaving now. I'm sorry.
Before he leaves, we have Temple Smith with us this week. He's a one-eyed gamer for over 41 years. He works to help the blind game community and helps the sighted to understand how we interact with it. He's worked over the year as a greenskeeper, soldier, steel worker, mechanic, and librarian for American Airlines. That's really cool. And he goes by @BlindTemple on Twitter. So, first of all, you were a greenskeeper, a soldier, a steel worker, a mechanic.
Yeah, I was a greenskeeper all through high school and college.
The only thing he missed was being a circus roundabout, or carny.
Yeah. I couldn't do that. I had all my teeth.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, that is a qualification.
Now I'm gonna have carny coming after me. Thanks.
To help introduce who Temple is, I'd like to share how I came into contact with Temple, and I'm sure many people have, is that joining Twitter as a visually impaired tabletop role-playing gamer, Temple was one of the first people to reach out to me and sort of a conduit for the blind community. He was really doing what Knights of the Braille do, but without that name and a Discord. He was just on Twitter, corralling people together, making them feel welcome, helping them out, advocating. How did you come to doing that, Temple, before we get into anything else?
Because nobody else was doing it.
That's the
Love
short
the
and long.
Love the answer. Now shut up, Jim.
I joined right after Twitter, right after Critical Role came out, because I heard that Critical Role talked on Twitter. And then I discovered the D&D community on there, the TTRPG community. And D&D Beyond had just come out in beta. And I discovered that it would let my one-eyed, not very well seeing, couple of inches away seeing eye see the game well enough to play it using that. And I knew there had to be all kinds of tricks and stuff that I didn't know that were out there. So I started answering questions for people once a month. And it kind of mushroomed on me.
Which date is your Ask a Blind Guy on? Is the 18th?
The 18th of every month. I'm working, if I can ever get back around to it, I am working on doing a live streamed Ask a Blind Guy.
That would be fantastic, man. Yeah, Temple does Ask a Blind Guy on Twitter @BlindTemple on the 18th of every month. You can come and ask questions, no matter how silly or stupid or offensive you might think they are. Temple is pretty laid back and will give you a solid answer on it, or at least direct you, to where you can get an answer. But I'd like to point out as well that Temple advocates for everyone, not just blind folks on Twitter. He wants a community that's inclusive for everyone. But Temple, tell us about your vision loss. What led to your vision loss? What kind of conditions do you have now, and how is your vision?
My vision loss was caused by a very poor doctor that I trusted, who did not know what late onset type 1 diabetes was. And because I was in good shape, he assumed I didn't have diabetes. So I went for 10 years with type 1 diabetes, not knowing it. My vision was lost to diabetic retinopathy. That's hard to say. and I have all the standard diabetic problems. My hands and feet are numb. My vision, I only have one eye, and I can see right now. I can see about 2 or 3 inches away from it if I lean in close. Like this morning, I'm sitting here. I have a 32-inch monitor, and I lean in close to it to be able to see it, to read, to get stuff done. But most of the time, I'm walking around with a white cane and bumping into stuff like everybody else. Uh, I have also, because of the diabetes, I have end-stage kidney disease. So I'm on dialysis right now and trying to find a donor. If any of you out there have a donor, a kidney you just don't need an extra one for, I'd take it. And that's just it. I was trapped here in this house in a dark room, nothing to do, and I discovered Twitter and all these wonderful people to become friends with.
Yeah, that's a pretty common theme, is the isolation and
Yeah.
loneliness. Even if you have a supportive family, they can never fully understand how difficult it can be. So it's great to have people out there. But we've got a ton of people in our community and in my local community with diabetic retinopathy. It seems to be quite a common cause of vision loss nowadays. How quick was the vision loss for you, Temple?
Well, they estimated I had the diabetes for 10 years, and it was over that time period before. The way I found out I had diabetes was because my vision started getting worse, and I went to a doctor who said, you have all these little hemorrhages in your eyes, and you need to get something done about it. It's from diabetes. And I fired my old doctor and got a new doctor.
That's a pretty common theme as well, is bad doctors.
It sounds very familiar to my mom's husband, who has necropathy, the retinopathy. He's on a pump though.
Yeah.
Are you on a pump as well, or?
No, I didn't want to get turned into a cyborg.
Right.
And I just managed it myself with the needles, with the the injector pins.
Yeah.
And then I have a Dexcom blood sensor that I wear on my arm.
He does too.
What my blood sugar is every 5 minutes, and I can access it over my phone. So
and
I
they'll
can
start beeping if it's low, and send like an alert when. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's amazing. It's fixed my blood sugar problems entirely, because I'm too over competitive, so I have to keep it between those two margins and everything. It's it's like I'm losing if it beeps. So
I understand. I understand exactly where you come from, and him, I would never do it with you, but I try to give him like little zebra, the little Debbie cakes, and orange juice especially. I try to give it to him, but that's just because we have like the love-hate relationship, But
man,
I know exactly where you're coming from.
How would you explain the experience or the process of dialysis for someone that's not familiar with it, or doesn't know anyone that goes through dialysis, Temple?
it's a slow delay to dying.
Yeah.
Because kidney disease is going to kill you. If it first starts, the only end result is it's going to kill you or you get a transplant. And I see is like I was talking about right now we average close to a person every couple of weeks up there at the dialysis clinic that passes away. It's because they've given up. And it's a harsh disability. It's it happens especially in older people, and it just becomes too painful, too exhausting, and they just quit trying. And you really have to be careful about your fluid intake. Like, I get a little over 20 ounces of fluid a day to drink. Anything I go over that hurts my body and has to be taken off through dialysis. So they pump all my blood out, take all of the bad stuff out of it, plus all of the water except for the minimum amount possible, and then send me back out in the world for a day and a half. And then I come back after that and do it all over again.
That's horrible, man. That really sucks.
Sounds just like what my dad was going through. He could have a liter of water,
Yeah.
and he would go like every 3 days to
Yeah.
dialysis. But I mean, his was slowly getting worse, and most of his came from not taking care of himself. He
Yeah.
still didn't care, but that
Happens.
sounds like very similar to everything that he went through.
It's I don't know. I usually say it's not that bad. You know, you get into a routine. Hell, I was just happy to get out of the house and go meet new people. You know, so much so. And with my neuropathy, my nerve damage, I was when they first started sticking these big ass needles in my arm to drain my blood out with. I was amazed because I got to feel something in my arms again. You know, it was it was an amazing sensation. It's like, oh, that does still work.
I was gonna ask about that because my stepdad, he has necropathy as well. I
Yeah.
mean, he can like stub his toe and not even know it.
Oh yeah.
But then my dad would get this prescription cream to like numb the spot
Yeah.
because he
Yeah.
had the port put into his arm.
Yeah. Yeah, I have that. I have the numbing cream and everything too, and you put it
Yeah.
on as heavily as you can.
Yeah, I discovered it was numbing cream by accident.
I'll never take stubbing my toe for granted again, man. That is,
You won't. I mean,
Oh, I've broken mine.
oh shit! Well, without realizing it, Temple.
Yeah, without knowing I did. The reason I knew it was because the loud cracking sound, and then I reached out,
Oh.
grabbed my big toe, and started moving it, and it was just loose on the.
Ah.
yeah, I'm
I
gone
taped,
now. I'm not offended, but I'm like,
I taped it up and went on.
I know you were raising money and reached your goal for your kidney transplant, which is fantastic. But from the sounds of it, you still need a living donor. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. A living donor is the best way to get a transplant. A non-living donor, someone who passes away by accident and they leave their kidney, lasts an average of 5 years. That kidney. For a living donor, it lasts an average of 14 years.
Whew.
So I'm 57 right now. I would like to make it till I'm old enough to see my nephews and nieces graduate from high school at least, so they have a good memory of me.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to get a living donor, somebody to donate. I've had dozens of people offer, but so far none of them have made it past the testing process to be a match.
Oh, so they have to be like the same blood type as you. Is that correct?
No, actually, because my hospital does what's called chain transplants. They will find, like, if I have a donor that's not suitable for me and somebody else has a donor not suitable for them, we can swap.
wow.
And
That's
take the one that
awesome.
works for me. And they have done up to 11-way chain donations before. So I'm just trying to get people to go get tested and just find one that's qualified. If I can get just one, then they can start setting up a chain, that might come back around to me.
So, have you met other people at the clinic that you go to that have gone through the process of getting a living donor before, or is this quite a rare occasion?
Usually it's somebody that they're either friends with or related to.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that's out hustling trying to get a kidney.
Yeah, I mean, since I joined Twitter, you've been searching for a living donor. It's been ongoing for a while, and I imagine extremely frustrating given the circumstances. It's not a fun thing to have to ask, and it's not a fun thing to have to need either. I do feel for you, man. It's really tough.
It's just life, Nobody gets out of it alive.
That's
It's
very
one way to
true.
look at it. Yeah.
What are the requirements, or are they too long to list, like in a podcast? In case people that are listening may be curious.
Right. If you go to my Twitter site, my pinned tweet at the top of it has two links. One for my charity, which, I've reached the goal, but it's American healthcare system, so
Right. Yep.
And also, there's a link to my hospital on there where you can contact them, and they will set up and give you all the information you need. I go to one of the best transplant hospitals in the country. They're in Oklahoma City, and they're amazing. The hospital that I went to for a transplant here in Tulsa, which was St. Francis Hospital. I'm giving them a bad name. They actively discouraged me from getting a transplant and just staying on dialysis the rest of my life.
Is that because they get money for that?
Because the medical practice that ran the kidney transplants also ran the dialysis, and they make more money off of dialysis.
Yeah.
That's American healthcare for you.
Yeah, they went out of business doing it, and I had to change what hospital I went to, and I looked at the other one in Tulsa, and they pretty much, from what I heard, did the same thing. Plus, everybody from my previous hospital went to that one so they could stay in town. And I was clever. We loaded up the truck and drove to Oklahoma City, which is about 2 hours away. Not exactly the quickest hospital visit of all time, but hey.
Right. When you could stay in town, and it still wouldn't be the quickest hospital visit.
So do you have to go to the one in Oklahoma City for your treatment?
Yeah. I'll have to live down there for about 6 months after the transplant. But fortunately, I have a laptop and access to the internet, so.
Does make a difference. And on that note, we'll come back to information about how you can help Temple at the end of the podcast. But Temple, you've also been playing Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop role-playing games for a long, long time. Some may describe you as a grognard or something similar. How did you get started, and what kept you playing for so long?
I got started in my junior year of high school in 1980 in the high school library. Somebody put up flyers that they were going to play Dungeons and Dragons at lunch. And I went down there and started playing. And I've been playing that and tabletop role-playing games ever since. With two of my friends that are going to be playing tomorrow morning. We've been playing since then. We're still together and still got our own group. Now the only difference to the group, besides the three of us, is my 14-year-old nephew plays with us.
That's awesome.
That is. So wow, you've seen all the editions in from what? You would have seen first edition?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. The knowledge there, Jim.
Yep.
He's a lot smarter than us.
No.
At least your nephew can learn how evil you truly are, Temple, when you play D&D with him.
Well, I have to warn my groups before I DM with them that I've done this a long time, so my game of D&D is a combination of every edition because I had to relearn it so many times. Sometimes I, go back to AD&D or the Red Box, or sometimes I'm in, 4th edition or 3rd edition or 3rd and a half or whatever the hell. I'm all over the place. I don't like to stop and read rules. I don't want to slow down the game. So generally, I just rule on the spot as whatever I can remember.
That's what we do. I think that's the beauty of stuff like Critical Role, where it's encouraged people to have fun and tell a story rather than get caught up in the rules,
For me, the story is all. That's what I'm trying to do, is tell the story. Over the years, I've become an improv DM to where I don't plan anything out. Usually what I do is at dialysis before whatever session it is, I'll lay there, since I'm there for 4 hours. I'll lay there and plan through what I intend to do, what monsters I use, and what it kind of looks like. I don't write any of it down or record it or anything. And then I show up without anything and just pull it out of my ass as I go.
But that's years of experience as well. I mean, you must have like tropes that you fall back to or stuff that you've used in the past, right?
Yeah, well, especially stuff that whatever the current players are haven't experienced yet. My nephew, on Saturdays, I run a game for my nephews and nieces, for 4 of them, including the oldest one. And I've got just a huge amount of content to run against them that they've never seen before. And I give them all of the old classics that, cracked us up and we had fun doing. And I try and do that on as much as I can to my new players that don't know all the junk that I've done before. I'm running a game world that is that I've switched over. Instead of making a new world every time I played a game like I used to. I finally settled on one that I wanted, and then I just play in that campaign for D&D. And everybody that comes through it has a place in the timeline and in that world, so that you may run into NPCs of other people's characters, and it stays alive that way.
That's really cool, man. That gives you a lot to draw from as well. Like, you don't need to make up as many NPCs because they already exist.
Well, and when I first started it, I was running 3 different campaigns in that world with people, and I had them all 3 running at the exact same time. So they would show up all the time as NPCs and and I was running the same storyline and everything at the time that got them introduced to the world. So they were constantly there helping each other and not realizing that they're NPCs. And then I would just swap what had happened in the real game to the what the NPCs were doing, and vice versa. And it was fun.
That's really cool, man. Building a world over 40 years that you have stuff that you've built and made, really cool. But as someone with nieces and nephews, how do you get the kids to sit and play D&D?
Well, first off, you set an arbitrary age limit, so they think they have to be mature enough to play.
I'm liking this manipulation.
Right. And then they're worried.
That's what arbitrary means.
So I chose 10, and as those kids turned 10, I would let them into the D&D game. And it could be a lot lower than that or whatever. It was just for my nephews and nieces, that seemed about right. And they love it. They look forward to it. I had to tell them that I wasn't going to be able to run one today because one nephew and one niece were off with their other parents and weren't here in town to be able to play. And the ones that were still going to be able to be here were all bummed and angry at them because they were messing up D&D.
Now he's using D&D to make a dysfunctional family. I love it already. I'm taking notes, Temple. Keep going.
They're fun though. They get into it and they play it. It's taken a little while to kind of get some of them to ease into it and not be, worried about embarrassing themselves in front of the older nephews and nieces. But once they get going, it's amazing to watch. They're hilarious.
How do they get on with the dice rolling and the rules? Is it very loose or is it more basic? How do you run that?
Yeah, they do it well, and they look out for me. I can't see if they're cheating or not. And they watch each other like a hawk to make sure nobody's messing with Temple.
Oh man, I've got a niece like that who's a tattletale.
My oldest nephew, Brian, he tells them, that there's no point in playing the game if you're going to cheat. You're not going to have fun, and you're ruining it for everybody else.
Good kid.
Yeah, and that's the attitude they take. They all take their lead off of the oldest nephew, and he's the cool one.
That's awesome, man.
That is.
I always find that with like games, if you as the game master are completely ridiculous when you start the game, everyone else eases into it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a great thing. Role-playing games are a great thing for kids. I mean, it teaches them empathy. It teaches them how to problem solve. It teaches them all of these great life skills that they need that they don't get from playing a game on their phone.
The social interaction. Hopefully they're not murder hobos at age 12.
That's at least, interacting, and then they have to learn to deal with the consequences of their action.
Very true, actually, yeah. But how's
Yeah.
D&D, Temple? I know you play BattleTech. Are there many other games that you engage with or have engaged in over the years that you really enjoy?
Yeah, a few. Let's see. Let's see. The second game I ever played was Traveler. We'll go through this. It'll take about 10 hours.
Ooh.
Uh, and then I think it was in 1984 I discovered my two loves, BattleTech and Champions.
I've
Yeah.
heard of BattleTech. I have not.
Oh. It's giant stompy robots, and you're riding around
I'm
like they're a
intrigued.
tank or something. They're a big war machine, and
Ooh.
it was a game system made to be played on a dining room table with just two maps and then the mechs on there, and it's totally unrealistic. Ranges are weird, the weapons are weird, and everything, but it works. It's a very simple system, and it's hugely fun to play. And they have rules for designing your own giant stompy robots. And what I like to describe it is Game of Thrones in outer space. They have close to 200 novels for this game.
Real
The BattleTech novels are the best ones of them. And they go all the way back into the 80s. I've been reading them since I found the first one at my college bookstore when I was at Oklahoma State University. And I've been reading them ever since. And they are just they caught me and hung on to me. I couldn't stop them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I love books like that.
And it's not just like game books, where you see somebody's cousin half-ass wrote a game book or something. These are actually written by fairly good authors. And they have a really cool program where they encourage fanfic. Fans write stuff of stories, short stories, and novels and stuff about it, and then send those in, and the BattleTech people will edit it, and if it is good enough, they'll put it out as a book. So it helps all the frustrated authors out there.
So, yeah, I can definitely get denied from submitting that too. I'm gonna have to try this out.
Google BattleTech, one word, and you'll fall into the hole.
I'll definitely do that while Jim runs his game this afternoon because I don't ever pay him attention anyway.
Well, so is BattleTech a percentile dice game?
No, it's 2 6-siders.
Oh,
very
nice and simple.
Super simple.
Yeah.
And you got the hardest part for me now is you've got a lot of charts and tables. And you just can't. The good part is I played it since 1984. I know all the rules, or at least all of them I remember, and that's all that really matters.
Because it's a lot of like hit locations and stuff on the mechs. You can lose an arm and stuff like that, right?
And it's and you got a mech sheet that shows your robot and all of the different locations and what weapons you have here and there, and what heat. That's the limiting factor on one, is how much heat is generated by your actions. If it gets too hot, it blows up.
Because I know that BattleTech is also embraced by the wargaming community, because there is a strategic military aspect to it, if you want to get into that as well.
Right. There's a role-playing system that can be added to it. There's the regular war game. There's a larger scale war game version of it. There is MechWarrior Online, which allows you to go on the computer and play. There is all the series of MechWarrior games that went all the way back to the late 80s. There's everything except for a movie, and every time I see a bad giant robot movie, I curse them.
Pacific Rim, is that what we're talking about here?
Any of the Transformer movies. Quit turning giant robots into stuff and just make a giant robot war movie.
Yeah, we want the human interaction behind that. We don't just want the silly truck robot.
Yeah.
But what keeps you coming back to D&D then, Temple? What's been the pull of that? Is it just because that's what you and your friends have always played, or is there something specific there that
we always played Champions? As soon as we discovered that it's a superhero game that has a point buy system, and you can build absolutely any kind of thing you want in that game, and that's the game we've played most of all. I quit running my Champions campaign for my friends and for my nephew that are all in the same buddy group to run another Champions campaign, our continuing MCU campaign, where we steal all the stuff from the Marvel Comics movies and stick it into our world. Every couple of years, they spend $100
That's
million giving us content.
That's right,
But
man.
yeah, Champions was what we kept coming back to. D&D we came back to because that's really, I think, because that's what we started with. And I came back to it personally when D&D Beyond came out, and it was accessible to me because I had tried playing in a D&D 5e campaign when it first came out, the Dragon Queen module campaign book,
Right.
and my friends were trying to help me, but I couldn't read the books. I had no idea what spells that I would have to ask somebody what a good spell looked like, because there just wasn't any accessibility in the game at that point, and I didn't have a whole lot of tools at that time either. But and I sweated through that game, going through it, and had fun in it and everything, but it just left me knowing that I didn't do everything I could do, and that was right after that, like a year after that, D&D Beyond came out in its beta, and I was just hooked. It made it possible for me to DM Dungeons and Dragons again. And and I had all these little nephews and nieces running around, and it's like, oh God, I gotta teach them. They might not grow up nerds if I don't intervene.
How dare!
We have a lot of people in the community that jump in, and initially they're like, I have to rely on other people, and I think that the online gaming has helped us too, because there's more theater of the mind campaigns, and having someone move your mini for you or make decisions for you isn't really you playing, and it's nice to have that opportunity now. And through Knights of the Braille, we've had lots and lots of theater of the mind groups, and thanks to you, Temple, advocating for our community and inviting people in and sharing resources. I think the blind tabletop role-playing game community is really a great place to be. A lot of fantastic people. We had barely any bad eggs, if any. And I want to thank you, Temple, for sort of initiating everything around this community, because in total honesty, without you, I don't think any of this would be getting pushed forward. So thanks very much, man.
I'm honored you would say that, but I'm pretty sure that there was other people out there helping too. I'm just the first one that my circle of friends knows in a lot of cases.
You are the friendly face of our community, the one-eyed Cyclops bringing people in.
The Godfather. Godfather.
I'm old.
Well, I can't think of anyone who deserves that paid back to them anymore. So, if anyone can donate to Temple to help out with his medical bills, or who can potentially be a living donor, please go to Temple's Twitter @blindtemple. Check out his pinned tweet at the top with links to both, and support him in any way you can. Please, I'm not saying this for lip service. He genuinely has helped out our community massively, and he really deserves all the help you can give. So Temple, is there anything you'd like to share at the end of our podcast?
If you can't help me, I completely understand. It's a lot for someone to ask, but help somebody else. You will do more good and more kindness to yourself by helping somebody else than you actually will for them. But everybody needs to do that. Help other people. Be there for them. Show kindness.
Well, an absolute gentleman, eh, Richard?
Yeah, I was thinking there's no better way to say what he said. And that's exactly right. There was a lot more kindness in this world. We wouldn't see what we see on the news, each and every day.
Absolutely.
All right. On that very somber note, we look forward to having Temple back and hopefully playing with him in future as well. And thanks for joining us.